Woo!
Hello and welcome to Star Wars Vision's Village Bride, music and sound commentary. We are the Band Batch. I'm Chrysanthe, and this is James and Justin.
Woo!
So, today we're going to give our thoughts about the music in The Village Bride, Star Wars Visions Episode 4, and play some musical and sound examples, and we'll have some fun, talk overall thoughts, specific thoughts, and we'll kind of make a guessing game out of it as usual. Who wants to go
Right,
first?
absolutely.
Ooh, all
Justin.
sorts of good things.
All right, let me go.
I'll go.
okay.
I go.
Let me go.
You go, James.
No, Justin, you go. I went first last time. You beat me to the punch. Go for it.
Oh no, all good. Okay. I got one for y'all. It's not the correct instrument, but let's see how well I can do. Coming through. All right.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. I know what that is.
Yeah.
Can you do it again, Justin?
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, William.
See here. Here we go. Not a great piano player. Hold on.
Oh, okay.
Do you know it now?
So, yeah, I do know
You got
it
it?
now.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
I think I do too.
Okay, what do we got?
Well, should we say what
any guesses in
instrument?
the chat?
Yeah.
Any guesses from our chat friends?
How about first we'll say what instrument we think it's on.
Okay.
Okay.
It's on a flute.
Oh, I was gonna say piccolo, but
Okay. Yeah.
one of those.
Some type of high flute.
Yeah.
Some type of high flute.
That's
I
okay.
would go with piccolo. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go with piccolo on this.
Hi, Jeannie. And I think that was it was sort of towards the beginning ish. It was like around 1:30. It was like after like before the song starts, but after F and what's the other guy's name?
Haru, right? No, Haru is the
after he puts his mask on or takes it off or something.
Yeah, what is his name?
I don't remember.
I forgot his name.
No.
Hey, Mask
It's
Jedi.
Velco. Velco.
Velco. Okay.
Velco.
Yeah.
We literally have the masked Jedi in our chat right now.
Oh my god, I know.
Masked Jedi, you've been waiting for this episode.
So the cool thing about that, or like, I guess what really struck me about that piccolo part is that it reminded me of the Starry Night piccolo, like from Star Wars. After the opening crawl.
It's exactly from the original, right? I believe it's the same part. It's the same part, right?
I don't know if it was exactly the same.
Yeah,
it was very similar.
It wasn't.
I mean, obviously the harmony underneath.
Like
You're right. The harmony was there, I think.
But it's
the
clear
harmony in the feel was there. Yeah, absolutely. Big clear reference. That's why I picked this one up ever since I was a kid and starting out as a flute player. That's one of my favorite parts to see and kind of reoccur in almost all the Star Wars films. At least the main.
No, it's just in
the
main one and the Last Jedi.
The main.
It's in the main one and the Last Jedi.
Gotcha. I remember.
I'm with you that where like I associate it with all of them.
Gotcha.
And I had to find out that it was only in 2 of them because in my head I was like was just in all of them, but it's not.
Yeah. Which is cool.
It's so prominent. Yeah, it's such a prominent thing.
What do we think? What do we think it like indicates? Like what do we think it's signifying, or what function does it take that little line?
Well, to me, it symbolizes like
To me, it's
we're
this
about to
kind of
start something.
beginning.
Are we overlapping?
We have a lag that is causing
Yeah,
some like.
yeah, I agree.
"Ah."
I think there's a huge yeah kind of thing.
Okay.
I think there's
I don't think I
unfortunately
don't think
some
I'm
kind
getting a
of
lag.
lag in
James
on
isn't
my end
laggy. It's
here.
just Justin.
Justin, do you want to jump off and come back on real quick? Just see if
I
it
think it's just
refreshes.
yeah.
Yeah.
So now that he's gone, just kidding. To me, it's like the beginning of something. Like, all right, the adventure is going to begin, or something like that. I don't know. What about you?
Mysterious. Yeah, I think there's like an exposition mystery element to it, right?
Totally. And Jeannie says it's like magic in nature kind of sound. Totally. Yeah. I get
for
those
sure.
vibes too, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of it gives Star Wars that fairy tale element, because that Star Wars is both a kind of a science fiction-y too, but it's also very much like a fantasy fairy tale in some ways. And I think that's one of those sound cues that gives it that component. And I think this kind of there's a lot of spirituality in this episode,
There
which
really
I
is.
which it's funny. The first time I watched this, I don't know. I think I've mentioned a number of times that like I binged this whole season, right? So like when I first watched it, and I think a lot of that was lost on me the first time around. I was
The
focused very much
spirituality of
on
it?
yeah, which is weird because it's like essential to that. But I'm what I'm saying is like I was like 4 episodes deep that I was just like it was just all so much that I couldn't even dig into the story. That when I came back to this episode, I was like, oh wow, there's just like so much. And the music I think makes this whole episode feel so weighty. There's like so much weight in this score and this music in this episode. There's like so much emotional weight in the way it's being portrayed. Like this episode actually in some ways could have been a little bit more lighthearted if you just changed the score in my eyes. Like
Interesting.
I feel like if you just made the score a little bit more like Ludwig Göransson in Mandalorian, it would seem more like that episode 4 of season 1 where he's in the village and he's helping out and it's kind of like tongue-in-cheek kind of thing, or just kind of a little more lighthearted. But because the score is so epic and like and mysterious and spiritual, it feels like it's telling a very, very serious story. Just through the music.
I'm so glad that you said that because I think this is one where like the way that the music and the story work together, I think it could have gone like so many different ways. With different music.
Yeah.
And also I think I would have like had a different opinion of the music with a different story too. Like this one was just so like more than most of them. I think this one felt like very much like the music and the story were things that I could possibly separate or that maybe I would have preferred they were separate or something
sure.
like that.
Or like basically are saying they felt like a mismatch in some ways.
I'm still not sure. That's the thing. Like I
Right.
don't necessarily think it was mismatched, but I think that like it challenged me more. It challenged me a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know. What did people and you know what's funny is like as I watched this, I finished like as I was watching the episode, I was like, people are gonna love the music in this one. I don't know if I do, but like this is gonna be a really popular one. I could tell that it was gonna be like one. I could tell that it was like really good on some level, but it wasn't working for me yet at first. I will say that like as I kept like revisiting it and as I listened to the album this morning, cause since the albums came out, it actually like I appreciated the music more when I was just listening to the album. It was really hard for me to regard the music when I was watching the story, just because the story itself, I was like not in it. Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Justin, what was your take on all that?
Hopefully, I'm not as insanely laggy anymore.
It seems like it's already a lot better. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, this music is definitely something I'm gonna go get the soundtrack for and listen
Yeah.
to on its own. This wasn't my favorite episode when I first watched it, but rewatching it, preparing for the stream, it hit me different for some reason.
Yeah.
I felt like the music. I'm gonna disagree just a little bit, or at least counter in a little bit, the saying. I think the music and this animation and this story went really hand in hand for me. It was incredibly emotional, and while you're right, this could have been a much lighthearted episode, and there were definitely moments of little lightheartedness, like in the feast where the guy's getting drunk, and I'm assuming his partner comes over and says, "Stop it," kind of a thing.
Right.
It invoked, and I'm sorry if any of this was said before as I was coming off. It really invoked this fantasy nature rather than a sci-fi kind of
Yeah,
a
for
thing
sure.
that Star Wars is
Totally
so
agree.
heavy based upon, and it really captured. It was almost Lord of the Ringsy to me, just a little
Yes.
bit, and that
I feel you
soundtrack
on the fantasy thing, like big time. Yeah.
totally.
Yeah. Or
Um,
Final Fantasy or something like that,
yeah, yeah,
Like it felt like an RPG style, like in vibe in some ways, Um,
totally.
and I know so little about video games in some ways, so at least my limited exposure, it seems like a fantasy RPG video game or something like that.
Oh, definitely, definitely.
I want to clarify that, like, I don't think that the music and the story didn't match. I just think, for me, something about the whole thing just hasn't clicked. And I was telling James
Yeah.
earlier this morning, like, it just hasn't clicked for me. Like,
Yeah.
I get it, and like I did have the sort of logical reaction when I watched it of like, oh yeah, this is gonna be a favorite. And
Yeah.
and I'm just gonna say that, like, I think it's just because the story touches on like a really personal nerve, like in a nightmare sense. And so like there's like the little, there's like a little kid in me that is really scared by this story. So I think that made it just difficult. And so no matter what was going to be attached to it, it was going to be colored by like that instinct, that I can't help because, I mean, look, I'm just going to say, when I was a little kid, I used to have these recurring nightmares where I was like being put on a sort of stage and being like married off. And like like in a ceremonial sort of like almost like a matchmaking or like a sort of forced marriage situation, like in a kind of old school kind of ritual, like village kind of way. What's it called when you are paired with someone?
Arranged
Or
marriage.
like arranged, and like I had recurring nightmares of being like married off as a little kid.
Yeah.
And this episode just like it kind of gave
Totally.
me just, even though that's not the story, like I don't think we're supposed to assume that this is an arranged marriage.
No, and
Just
they
like
give us that scene in the beginning where they're clearly like,
it's just it's just
together.
these things aren't logical, and
Sure.
I recognize that there's an illogical part of me that is just reacting to it, and so
Totally.
that is where I'm coming from.
Well,
But like I
we'll
tried
validate that
to
for
get
sure.
into it, and I have
Yeah, I
appreciated it
know
more.
what you mean. In some ways, I felt like I was like I said, like the score was so emotional and was telling such a emotional story that I just wasn't feeling from the episode. Like I wasn't really moved
Good point.
by the episode of what was happening on screen or the characters or anything. But the score itself, I feel like if I listened to the whole just the score, I'd be really moved just by the score. But you put it on top of that, the story, I felt like the story itself didn't move me.
Totally.
Which is, I guess that's what it is, I was like, I wasn't buying it. Not to say I didn't think it was like well animated, that it was a fun story. Like I said, this felt like a fun, almost like I said, like it felt like a Mandalorian episode. It's like the Jedi saves the village and then flies. It literally like was like basically 90% of the Mandalorian episodes. Like we're on a planet we need to help somebody, and I'm hiding my true identity from something, right? And I'm gonna come out of my shell and do something that I don't really want to do to help these people, and then I'm gonna fly away at the end of the episode.
It, it
You
kind of
know,
mirrors the first episode in a way. The whole idea of the Ronin coming in
yeah,
and this I mean, I guess in this episode we don't know what happened to the master, the Jedi's master, in any
right.
way. It's just kind of alluded that they're not there,
Order
they
to
abandoned,
or
they
something.
died, something like that, and it's still kind of falling into this Ronin type save the village
Yeah,
story, like you're saying.
I
yeah.
think
You know what?
I think Jeannie's comment is really good. The music was so good it was distracting. It felt like it was telling its own story. I also felt like the music was competing for my attention against
Right.
the dialogue. That's sort of like what we're
Totally.
saying too. And I think like I think the thing for me is like, first of all, oh no, my voice is doing that glitchy thing again. Okay, so first of all,
Sounds good to me.
okay, so first of all, um, I I have a bias against wedding stories, okay, just because of what I already told you. But like,
Right.
I don't always dislike wedding stuff. Like I was
Yeah.
thinking like it doesn't bother me like when Anakin and
Don't ever
Padme get
invite
married.
Xanthe to your wedding. They'll just hate on it the whole time. I'm just kidding. I'm just
Like
kidding.
it doesn't bother me. It just like we were thrust into this story and I don't know these characters yet, so I don't feel like celebrating their marriage yet and spending so much time celebrating their marriage. It felt like very over the
Right.
top, and then with this very emotional like Enya song playing on top of it, it was just like there's a
Yeah.
marriage. You're supposed to feel really epic about it right now. You're supposed to feel like it felt over directed, like or
Yeah.
like it felt like the music was just trying to force me into vibes that I wasn't ready to feel yet.
Yeah,
And
for
so
sure.
that kind of made me like reject it a little bit more because I was like, oh,
Right.
it's like corny stuff only works if you're already on the inside of it. And I
That's
felt
true.
very much on the outside, and I was like, oh,
I wonder if in the writing of this music, if that was kind of the intent. I'm curious if the composer was asked, "Can you emotion this
oh,
up a
I'm
little,"
sure.
kind of a thing,
Yeah.
and perhaps they went a little overboard
Well, I think
with
that
such a
I
gorgeous,
yeah. I
moving music.
I think it was intended, and if it went overboard, that would have been on the director to say like, oh, let's scale it back. Because I've definitely done that when I've composed for films. I've been like, here's my thing, and they've been like, okay, um, let's do another mix of that. Like turn down all your favorite parts. Let's take the violin out completely. It's
right.
just going to be guitar. It's just going to be like the backdrop, and so that's definitely like not a composer fault. I think it's what they intended. And um, oh, Jonah, that's interesting. Okay, Jonah says the music was a huge standout to me, and okay, and the music felt rewarding, even though we don't know anybody. Okay, so for you,
Hmm.
it wasn't a distraction, or did you like the what were your thoughts, Jonah? Feel free to comment. Like, what did you think of the overall story? Were you like invested in the story, or were you more just like, oh, I'm enjoying the music?
Yeah, the vibe. I think honestly the music did a lot of heavy lifting for me to like this episode, I
Yes.
think. I
Yeah,
think that's
yeah,
what I'm
yeah,
saying. Is like I love the music of this episode. I really do. I really love this. This is like a single, the tune. And by the way, we'll talk about it, I'm sure, at some point more specifically, the main track. There's like a moment where
Yeah.
there's like a very much like there's like a track going on.
Keep talking. I'm just gonna get my violin out.
Okay. So I yeah, I think, I love the music, but like I said, it just did the heavy lifting for me. Like, it was like, oh my God, like there's actually another episode like this season where the music feels like it's a lot better to me than the actual episode. And
Hmm.
which is, I don't want to say too much so we can save some of those thoughts. But there is another episode where the music is incredibly distracting, and out a little bit a mismatch, but also incredible at the same time. Where the music is much more interesting in my eyes than the episode. But I don't know. I should ask you, Justin. To me, like, to my ears, I've seen a decent amount of Japanese animated shows that have this type of there seems to be like a genre here of some of the music in this episode where it's like synthy, epic sounding, and even some of the harmonic material seems very quote unquote anime, for lack of a better word. Is that a fair? Because this composer has done a number of other things, right?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, I guess it's definitely got that fantasy anime kind of
Yeah, yeah,
feel.
yeah.
I mean, I'm thinking back to one of my favorite anime-based video games called Tales of Symphonia that has music very similar to this.
Okay.
It's very orchestral, it's emotional, it's got these themes, it's got these
Yeah.
moments. Um, and kind of what William 2380 said. Anyone else get a Princess Mononoke vibe from this one? It felt very like the type of scores you would see in a Studio Ghibli or a Miyazaki film, where
Yeah. Yeah.
it's got that tinge of fantasy, mystery, mixing of these
Right.
different uh, kind of genres. I mean, the main theme sung by Emmy Evans was kind of. I think. What did you say, Xanthe? Kind of Enya. It
Yeah.
had this
That's
Irish
actually what
vibe to it.
that's actually what my mom what my mom said.
Yeah.
Because
And then
yeah, because I was texting. I was like, I'm not sure how I felt about that. She was like, that was too Enya.
it's too
That's so
Enya.
funny.
And then
And
supported
what?
by these like orchestras, these big swells of strings and brass coming in. It
Ah,
it uh, it, it didn't. I mean, we've talked about in the past like what makes Star Wars, what makes the vibe, what all these things
right.
like that, and this score didn't. If we're going on a superficial level, uh,
Right.
was very less Star Wars, minus
For sure.
the little shout out with the piccolo in the beginning,
Right.
and definitely more. I know we just keep saying fantasy, but it's just got this fantasy vibe going for me, almost Harry Potterish too.
A little bit too,
Um,
right?
yeah,
The composer, Kevin Penkin, has done a number of other anime films and pieces of media. It looks like he did Made in Abyss, Rising of the Shield Hero, Tower of
mm,
God, Eden. I haven't seen any of them, but my understanding is that he's pretty got a good like repertoire of this type of medium. So I think um, it seems like that's some of those sounds are being brought over to Star Wars here, which is cool. I mean, it's cool to see. With this show, it's cool just to see genre bending going on with this show that we haven't seen before. We haven't heard any of these types of sounds or atmospheres, or like even that song. Like we said, there was like a score we haven't seen almost hardly ever. Maybe Xanthe, you can give me a specific spot, probably in one of Williams' scores where this happens, but there's not many times where there's a vocal line being sung as a score element. Like usually if there's singing going on in Star Wars, it's part of an ensemble that's it's diegetic
right.
music on screen, right? There's the Ewok celebration, right, where they're singing Yub Nub. There's the scene in Return of the Jedi in Jabba's palace. There's Jabba flow in Force Awakens, but there's very rarely and that's why Xanthe and I were saying this is somewhat like uh this is somewhat like the Lord of the Rings, because there are those moments where there are just scored singing in Elvish, right?
Right.
Over
I mean,
over
I'm not
the
a Lord of the Rings expert, but it definitely
likewise.
sounded. You know, It's funny because there is actually the latest Star Wars comic, Trail of Shadows, has a lullaby in it. It's kind of like this,
Oh,
but
Yeah.
yeah, this actually this sounded almost to me like it was supposed to be diegetic,
yeah,
like
but it wasn't.
Like
Right.
it could have been a song sung by the village almost. I mean,
yeah,
it's
it
very.
could have, yeah,
It's
totally.
not just a vocal line. It's a full blown song.
And I agree, Jonah. Emmy Evans did great with the vocals.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
I mean,
And by
yeah,
the way, I did check that. I don't believe I think it's essentially either it's not there's no like direct translation. It's not like just one language or anything like that. I think any of the words I think there might be words from multiple languages. I'm not sure if it's, for what I know, it's not being sung in one real language throughout.
yeah.
So there's not really a meaning to it. So
Jeannie,
I
you're
think
right. That
everybody was getting that experience that we were having, which is like, what do you think this song even means?
right. And Jeannie,
That's
you're
what I
right.
was gonna say.
You're right that Duel of the Fates has vocals, but it sort of is like this vibe of like unspecified meaning of the vocals.
Big ominous choir kind of a thing.
And something
And this
that's
is
not
so
like
intimate. This is a
immediately
solo.
like,
You know, this is like a solo vocal line. You know, it's very clearly a person, and there's nothing else going on during some of these shots because there's like long mountainous shots where you're not really seeing. It's like establishing shots, and you just hear the vocals. So the vocals are so front and center. Well, like, you know, in Duel of the Fates, you're watching the giant, like, you know, the most epic lightsaber battle at that point that we'd ever seen on screen. You know, so in some ways, like the vocals aren't really front and center to that scene. This I felt they very much were, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. Let me just get my... There we go. Descending.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I should cover this.
Ah, so gorgeous.
It really is a gorgeous song, and I love the brassy, bassy synth sounds underneath that make it sound so ominous and just so heavy. So heavy.
Right.
Because the way that Xanthe's playing right now, the way that Xanthe's playing it right now feels so much lighter and a little bit more sad, I should say, than it sounds in the score. It sounds so much heavier and
mystical,
right?
Yeah.
And it's just, I think that's purely timbre, you know, of the synths that creates that atmosphere. It's amazing what timbre can do to a song. You put a big bassy synth down there that, you know, underneath, it just changes everything about it to me.
I think where the synth really makes more of an impact is in sort of the B part, because if you think of the A part being sort of like, and it's and the background of it is like pretty solid. Like it definitely doesn't get as bassy and low until part B, where it's like,
right.
And then it's like solo for a second, and then
yeah, he's awesome.
etc.
So good, man. So good. It's a great tune. I might cover this too somehow. I don't know what I'm gonna do. A little marimba vibraphone cover.
Band batch cover. Let's do it.
Good, let's do it. Seriously. Yeah, really cool.
I mean, it comes back a few times, so like there is more than one version of it. Like I think there is a more lighter side of it, and then there's like
more an oboe solo in there.
And then there's the reprise later where there's no vocals, and then there's like, at least on the album, there's like, then it's like is it in 4/4 at some point? I don't know. Well, no, it is in 4/4, but like there's another part where like the beat of it is more the beat, the beat underneath is just different, and it's more like I don't know. It's more of I don't know. Oh, I think, what did I write in my notes for the end? The ending power ballad.
Yes.
Totally. Yeah. All right, so check this one out. When does this happen?
What do you got?
All right. I only transcribed like half of this cue, but you'll know it. You'll know it. Okay, which is kind of interesting in some ways.
Sounds extremely familiar.
Yes. I think I know where it is. I think, any guesses from the chat?
One more time.
Any guesses in chat?
This is one of my favorite, I think,
Yeah.
sequences score wise.
Did you say that it is that instrument?
It's pretty close to this instrument. So I'm playing like a keyboard vibraphone sound. There's a little bit of vibraphone. It's not the main instrument, but there's celeste and glockenspiel for sure, and some piano, and then there's eventually flutes.
Okay.
And this one has a very interesting name on the soundtrack, which is weird.
Okay, yeah. Should have paid attention.
Yeah,
Okay.
I couldn't catch all the transcriptions from the episode, so having that soundtrack was really helpful today, actually, because you got rid of all the dialogue and sound. So, any guesses of what's happening here?
I think I recognize the music, and I want to say that this was when they were walking away right before their last night together. I see them holding hands.
Ah, okay.
Is that
Who's they?
The bride and the groom. Haru and I forget both names.
Okay.
Is it at 441? No, it's not.
So it's not the bride and groom. That it is between two characters, but it's not the scene.
Is it after
it's not
F
the bride and groom?
Or after he's like, the mask doesn't suit you?
No, it's even later than that.
Okay.
So this is the scene of after the village scene between F and the bride in the woods.
Oh, okay, yes. Okay, I was close. I was a little close.
Where they're talking about the Magina or Magina.
Magina.
Yeah, depending on if you're doing subs or dubs, which was interesting.
That was interesting.
Yeah, it reminds me of, if anyone's ever seen, was it Evangelion, Neon Genesis Evangelion? If you watch it in Japanese, it's Nerve, and then if you watch it in English, it's Nerve. For an organization, which is a fun.
I actually just started. I actually am in season 1 of that at the moment.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So the name of this scene on the soundtrack, which is weird, is "A flock of X-wings descend into a mountain's garden."
Hey.
Which
is part of it like does part of it go at the end, like when there's the X-wing?
No, this is like that straight. Basically, the soundtrack is at least I noticed, like basically in the order of the episode, and is straight through. So this particular scene, because this is before they have the fight the next morning, right, or the next day, right? So yeah, it's really strange. I'm like, first of all, there's no X-wings in this episode. I think it was just like some name they just gave the cue, which is weird.
Scherzo for X-wing, right?
Yeah, because I mean, some of the names on the soundtrack, it's almost like one of them's called Requiem for Blasters.
Right.
Another one is called A Desert of Two Suns, SONS. So I feel like they were just given like arbitrary names that have nothing to do with what happens in the actual episode, which is kind of bizarre.
I hear all the words. Here are the words from Star Wars.
Yeah, right.
And I did.
It's like an AI. It's like they are all named by like Star Wars
like
GT3.
AI.
Weird.
I did notice that like all of the Visions albums, they kind of had similar like quirky types of names. And with some caps and some not caps and stuff like that.
Yeah. kind of interesting, huh?
Yeah.
So yeah, this was a beautiful scene, I thought. I mean, there's like it really develops to these like just cascading flute lines.
Yeah.
And then
I wrote mold.
And then there is a sound that I wonder if everybody. I'm gonna wait to the end of the episode to mention this other sound that comes at the end of it.
And it happens a few times.
Yep. And I'm wondering if you're thinking about the same one. Maybe.
It sounds like a bowed piano to me.
Okay, maybe we're not talking about the same thing.
Okay.
Okay, so what sound are you talking about? Wait, isn't it Justin's turn?
Did we skip Xanthe?
No. Who went first? It was Xanthe or Justin? It was Justin, right?
I went
So
first.
Xanthe owes us something.
Okay, but I do want. Okay, I do want
You
to.
want to talk about the sound though?
I want to talk about the bowed piano for a second.
Oh, bowed piano, you said.
Yeah,
Okay, so maybe that's one way I could describe it, but
I'm gonna play a
Interesting.
clip of bowed piano.
okay, yeah.
Oh wait, am I gonna get?
Love that sound.
I'm gonna play it very quickly because I don't want to get in trouble.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, God, an ad. Okay.
That face that is usually covered by her phone.
Suspense is killing us.
I know. It's not. Hasn't. I'm trying to find a good part. Sorry, I'm. So this is. Anyway, that wasn't very representative because they were playing higher pitches, but it kind of is like this metallic sounding. Is this what you're talking about?
I'm talking about a synthy swelling metallic swell is what I'm
Yeah,
talking
that's
about.
what I'm trying to. That's
Yeah.
That's
And
Yeah.
if anybody wants to hear a really what this really elicits for me is listen to Terry Riley's Rainbow in a Curved Air.
Oh, that's funny.
And-
I was just pulling up a video called Rainbows too.
Okay. So Terry Riley's Rainbow in a Curved Air like has this type of synth sound. And it's almost like I'm pretty sure it's like the same pitches and the same chord that they use in this episode. And we're talking Xanthe about 319 in this episode, yeah?
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
what I
and
wrote,
it
yep.
happens and it always happens when we're looking at the bride and the groom.
And also at 11:25.
Right. Same thing whether it's the bride and the groom together alone. So at first they're activating that like memory palace thing with the bubble, right? Or whatever you want to call that thing that they put their hands on. Again, there's a lot of spiritual thing in this whole season that I like last week it was like that weird astral projection scene where it's like, what is actually going on in this scene? To me, it was like that. I was like, what?
Okay.
But anyway, it's like that. It was the bride and groom in that scene, and then later on, same thing, bride and groom. So it's definitely has something to do with those two characters in some ways.
Yeah. I'm glad we were like, there's a sound that we should talk about, and then we're thinking of the same sound. I don't know if it also maybe was sort of accordion like.
Yeah,
it's got an accordion feel to it. Yeah.
Like you're stretching the what do you call it? I don't know what the part of the bag. What do you call it?
Yeah, like the swelling aspect of it, and it
Bellows.
doesn't. It's not like a vibrato. It's like a pretty flat. It's not like violin where you can really vibrate it. It sounded like something flat, like either an accordion or like obviously like a synth or like or a bowed piano. And in case it's not obvious what a bowed piano is, because I guess that can sound kind of weird, is like here you see this piano, but when you have like a grand piano, you can take the top of it off and you can see all the strings inside of the piano, and you literally when you bow a piano, you take like you can take like hair like from a bow like that I use for my violin, and you kind of it takes a lot of people to play bowed piano. You have people on one side of the piano and people on the other side of the piano, and you kind of like saw back and forth this like string, and it like plays the strings of the piano because there are strings in the piano just like on the violin, and it draws this amazing sound out of it. And highly recommend looking that up. Just like look up bowed piano, and you can see videos of people playing it. It's really wild. Okay.
And I just threw one other track it reminds me of. It's this band Black Moth Super Rainbow. which is I guess a lot of there's a lot of rainbow sounds. I think it's kind of interesting. Black Moth Super Rainbow, which is like a synth, like trippy psychedelic band, and they have this particular song, Forever Heavy, has a very similar synthy sound to this sound that we're talking about as well. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a cool sound, really cool, and it creates a sense of uneasiness. What does it remind me of? It's just it's alien. It's both, but it's also like spiritual and strange to me. You know, there's like a spiritual element to it. It sounds almost like ghostly, or it's very.
It's like the suspended emptiness, vastness.
It's also like a confident sound.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's consonant, right? I mean, because it's like
confident, but that too. I mean, it's not consonant. That's the thing. Like it. I mean, obviously matter of perspective, but it is a little bit dissonant. But it's a confident sound. It's not like something sneaking in. It's like something that seems to overpower. It's like you said. It's like larger than. It's spiritual, or it's like larger than what is happening. It's symbolic or something.
Reminds me of the end of 2001: A Space Odyssey with the whole like falling into Jupiter scene, and just that whole vibe of it just being, it's somewhat like there's a Lovecraftian like existential horror to it in some ways. Like it's just like it's so heavy. That's what I'm saying. Like this whole episode felt so heavy and intense to me. I was like, oh my god, what is going? Like, am I supposed to be feeling something more than I'm feeling right now? Because this whole thing is just so intense. There's so much intensity in this score, you know. And this sound, I think, is another intense moment. Yeah.
All right.
I'm not sure.
I know this part.
Sorry, I need to tighten my bow. Speaking of bows. Okay. This is really bad. Oh my god, I can't remember how it goes. I transcribed it, but it's like a freeform thing. So the rhythms.
I think I know it. I think
I'm gonna try it on
it.
piano. But
Okay.
it's so weird when there's no rhythms and like the notes are there, but you just don't get the phrasing.
Right. Yeah, right? Yeah, that one boom boo-doo-doo-boom, that part right there is I love that part. So do you know, Justin?
See, that's since this whole soundtrack has such memorable music, it's hard for me sometimes to remember where in the episode it was, but I know that part. I remember that musical part.
So it's kind of freeform, and it's like a lot of it is unison cello and voice. And then what I'm playing also was like there's like a bass line underneath it.
Where was it, James?
I think I was thinking. I think I remembered it. I assigned it to the wrong spot. So I think going back and realizing, I don't think I was thinking of the right spot. I was gonna guess it was during Saku's like her standing up at the village and being like, "We need to fight
It's so
back."
interesting that you think that.
It's
Yeah.
close. That's kind of
It's
where I
not.
was thinking too.
It's
But
not,
I
but I
Yeah,
know why you
it's
think
not.
that.
Yeah, there's a couple little thematic elements that I think appear in that scene. I think that some of the things that you just some of those little lines you play, I think, are very
Some of the
similar to
shapes. Some of the shapes.
some of the shapes. Exactly.
Yeah.
So I remember this now because now you said vocals. I was like, yeah, where does that happen? Because I remember hearing that line and being like, that is a very pretty line, and the harmonies to it is really haunting. Where is it, Xanthe?
It's
This
after Majina May You Rise.
Oh, okay. So yeah, it's right that. Yeah, I found this speech
And it's
kind of like out of nowhere.
And then a lot of it is, yeah. And
Like,
then
what are you even talking about?
Mountains.
Yeah.
and- yeah.
Like, oh,
Like,
how did you know about this?
Right? Didn't it seem a little like a little unearned, that whole speech? I was like, what are you even alluding to? You're like giving this massive speech, but like,
Lion King.
I don't know. I think it felt like it felt like last episodes or last week where it's like, did I miss something here? Did I miss like some huge backstory because she goes on this huge speech, but what is she even talking about in this whole spot? Can anyone tell me?
It didn't.
She's like, oh, nature.
Yeah, that was
be
the
one
vibe
with
that I got.
nature.
That was basically
but it was like
nature.
It was like how?
Yeah,
But it
yeah.
was like, let's be one with nature so I can kill this guy. But
Yeah.
Wait, what?
No, he's like that was basically what she was. The crux of like the next.
She's gonna
the
kill
next
him?
act. She killed that
The
guy.
bad guy. The
What do you
bad
mean?
guy.
She
Yeah.
killed the bad guy.
Oh, I thought you meant like her husband.
No.
No, this is F
but I'm saying-
speaking.
But it's like usually when you have a speech like that, like you're like, oh, let's be one with nature. Like the animals all come out of the woods and start fighting the bad guys. You know what I mean? Or like the plants all start growing. But all that happened next was she killed that guy with a lightsaber. So I was like, what was up with the
Are
whole?
you having a problem that nature is like?
No, I just like I just like the speech didn't seem to make sense with like what was actually going on in like the scene. She's like, I don't know. Maybe
she was like being like, I'm returning someone to you, or like,
okay, maybe that's what
like
it is,
before
right?
I make a
Returning you
you
to
know, like
nature.
before I make this sacrifice, or before I kill something, I'm gonna try to give to nature, or something, you know, to try to
Yeah, I
like,
guess
be
so.
one with the nature.
Yeah.
with
They
the-
did say they made some comments throughout the episode that like these traditions and these these rites that they do keep them in touch with nature.
Yeah.
Right. And so
I just chalked it up to something like that.
Yeah.
And that, yeah.
But yeah, that was a beautiful line during this whole scene.
Yeah.
Very
agree.
There's definitely some missing story context here. There's another character that deserves maybe like an episode or two beforehand to get what's going on.
You know what I thought was kind of interesting about the pair, the protagonist pair in this episode, is that didn't it seem like the man Velcro? No, it's Valco. Valco, didn't he seemed elder, right? He seemed like he was like maybe like had more experience or
It
something
seemed
like
he
that.
was like judging her the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I just meant like in terms of like experience or whatever. He seemed like he was the elder, right?
Yeah, I think so,
Right?
because he had a bigger hat.
Which is interesting. We normally what was interesting is that he is like, we don't see this very often in Star Wars, where the Jedi is not the elder, more seniority person. Like, he wasn't a Jedi, and I just assumed he was the whole time because they were paired up, but he's not a Jedi.
What
He's
was
just
he?
like a sharpshooter mercenary guy or whatever, right?
Because
remember, he goes, I'm not going to act like I care about your code, right? He says that.
Yeah.
So I don't think he's a Jedi. He doesn't have any like, he's like a. So we don't often see this where like
But
the
this
Jedi
is also
is like
post Order 66, so it's not like Jedi
Yeah.
have the same cachet, you know?
Yeah, I know, but I think just in general, Star Wars usually like positions its Jedi characters as being like the wiser one amongst the group, like Obi-Wan, Kanan, Uh, what else? I don't know. Just like anytime there's some Jedi
But those are all
involved.
instances of not immediately after Order 66, which I think is
Kanan-
different. Like also in Tatooine Rhapsody.
It seems to be a pretty similar era that Rebels is in.
No, it felt to me way earlier.
Okay. I mean, I think it's also like it doesn't. I think it's borrowing its timeline things. I don't think it's like clear when it is. But regardless, I think, I mean, econ circumstantial, I'm just saying it's notable that we don't see, like, regardless of what the reason behind it is, it's still notable that we get, like, someone that's basically talking down to a Jedi, you know? That doesn't, we don't see that very often, you know?
And I'm curious what the relationship is, because he mentions this planet has ties to an old friend of ours. So they
Do you know
both
what the name
knew.
of the planet was?
She said, and then she goes, my master, afterwards.
Yeah, so they both knew. I don't know what the name of the planet was. Magina? No, maybe the planet is Magina.
Maganania.
Yeah. But yeah, they clearly he knew. They both knew the master of F, and that master was tied to this planet in some sense. So maybe she was trained on this planet, so she knew what to say about the nature speech. Or maybe Magina is a replacement for midichlorians. It's the new sense of where the Force comes from.
This is actually a good. I can see this, William. Possibly an ex-Jedi.
Ex-Jedi, you think? And what? I guess my reasoning is like, why? Why do we assume that? Like, because he's older and he has robes? I was because honestly,
because of his whole outfit and mystique.
Right. But
his rocket helmet.
I was no, and I guess
the
this
fact that he was not part of the. He didn't seem part of the village. That's also like he was also kind of on the outskirts.
This is actually kind of part of my point, which is like the first time I watched it, I assumed he was a Jedi. Then when we went back to watch it, I was like, he doesn't have a lightsaber, he doesn't do anything with the Force, he doesn't say he's a Jedi. I was like, why did I assume he was a Jedi? And I'm saying the reason why is because we're used to the elder position. Someone in his position is usually the wise old Jedi that's talking, you know, like, and I don't think we have any reason to believe he is, and I just found that interesting. And I think we can also agree that like the traditional Jedi garb was totally like inspired and lifted from samurai robes, right? And so now a number of these people in these shows have more traditional Japanese garb, and that could also lead us to believe that
compared to the rest of the episode. Like everyone else in the episode was not in that. So
I think weren't there some people in the village that were kind of dressed like that?
A little bit.
All hooded and everything too, like where you couldn't see their face.
The bride reminded me of almost of like Ahsoka a little bit, with the helmet or hair. I think it's the
bride reminded me of like some Norse story,
kind of a
like
thing.
Kind of, or a like
Viking thing.
Yeah, Viking or like pagan or something like that, right?
I think it was the white headdress or her hair. I couldn't quite tell that she was wearing. Almost looked like ram
I think
horns.
he was used to measure things looked like a lightsaber.
I thought it was going to be a lightsaber in the beginning, and then
I still don't think he necessarily was not a Jedi or ex-Jedi or whatever, you know, either.
Sure. I mean, he definitely could be. I guess there's just nothing to indicate that he is in the episode. So yeah, you know what's cool? There's the, you know, in what do you call it? Rebels. What is Zeb's species? I forget what he is. He's a Lasat, and they have their own word for the Force too. They have what is it called? What do they call it? The Lasat word for Force?
I forget.
They have it's called the ash bow, right?
Oh,
is that right? Yeah. And
Mm-hmm.
so there's a precedent in Star Wars that other people have different definitions for what is essentially the Force, right? You know, like the Night Sisters and the Night Brothers on Dathomir have their own word and an idea of what the Force is. Their magic basically is basically just their version of the Force, which is cool that they continued that idea. You know.
Yeah.
I lined up our pianos, by the way. So you can stop worrying about it.
I was very concerned.
I gotta get mine in.
Another kind of like
Hold
a
on.
V. Okay.
Oh, that's so funny.
Okay. So everyone, you can calm down. I lined up our pianos. So
That is so funny. I love it.
all right. Who's next?
All right, I got one. Okay, let's see if I do this. I'm gonna step away from the mic so I don't blast into this thing. So here,
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna do one of these. All right, I only got a little bit of it because it kind of. I forgot that the soundtrack. You texted that the soundtrack was out, and I was like, "Oh, that's awesome!" And then I tried to do it from the episode again. I completely forgot.
I still ended up using the episode too.
And it goes on a little bit longer, but it drowned out. A lot of great
Oh, I think I know where this is, Justin.
Yeah. You know Xanthe? Anybody from the chat?
I have a
Should
So many
guess.
great flute parts in this. I loved it.
Totally.
Believe it or not, despite all the synths and the other things I do, I started as a flute player.
It's true.
Right. Justin's an amazing flute player, yeah.
Still
I
the
remember
only
Justin-
instrument I can actually play.
Justin had this really cool piece. I remember like our first year at Cal Arts where Justin was like playing flute and like you were like playing a percussion instrument at the same time, or you were doing something that was like a combination of like
Oh, right. It's,
Yeah.
yeah.
It was really cool. What were you playing? Like a hi-hat or a cymbal or something? I don't remember. Or a
was,
shaker, tambourine.
I think it was a
You
shaker.
tapping on the music stand?
Yeah. It
It
was
was
all
tapping on the music stand with a pencil, right?
doing
Yeah, it was
that.
a really cool piece. I
It was
remember
a fun
that.
one.
It was
Fun one.
really
I gotta
cool.
find that. Nice.
Yeah.
Want to hear it again?
I do. We
Yeah.
do have a guess. Jonah has a guess, but I want to hear it again.
Yeah. Then it goes on like something like that. But
I have a guess, but I don't know.
I have
I'm
a
just
guess.
guessing. I don't recognize the melody particularly, but I know that there's a moment that has like very prominent flute, so I'm just gonna guess that it's that
Is there
spot.
also a koto playing at the same time?
That was my guess.
it is. There
It's
is.
just-
And
so
so
this is
unfortunately,
likely a-
Jonah, this is not the end of the episode, Jonah.
So this is during the village where there's a traditional Japanese ensemble playing, right? And this is likely
Yeah.
played on like a shakuhachi, right?
Yeah,
This
it sounded
was-
like it sounded like shakuhachi and koto, and it was
Yeah, that's what it
diegetic.
sounded like to me.
There
What?
was in the very beginning. So you're both in the right area. So this is the part of the village feast, and there was a shakuhachi and there was a koto, and there's this kind of plucky kind of vibe going on, and but this part was very much a Western transverse flute.
Oh, okay. Gotcha,
Um,
gotcha. So was this like later in that scene where the score kind of takes over?
Yeah.
I see.
Now
Okay,
when they're
cool.
looking at the past, there's a particular line that struck me right when this comes in.
What is the
This
line?
part comes in. The line is, "I understand that the grief of this village runs deep."
Oh.
That's right when they start talking about what's going to happen to the bride. And they're saying, poor girl, poor this. And
See, I think this is why this is also like contributed to my bad vibes about it. Whereas like they're talking about like the bride's like collateral, like whatever, and I felt
Yeah,
that
for
goes
sure.
back to my nightmare about
yeah.
being married off and the bride this, the bride that.
I
Yeah,
just
there's
dropped a YouTube link to a good friend of mine, for Kalarshin, Kojue Matsumoto, who's an incredible koto player, playing this Japanese zither that we're talking about. A zither is a string instrument where these strings are actually laid down so
Are you talking about the
horizontally.
koto?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and so
Ko-
I just linked it. Linked
Kojue's cool.
Matsumoto.
Yeah, go check out Causeways. They're awesome.
Yeah. But that instrument is being played underneath this this cool scene here amongst other Japanese traditional instruments. So.
Yeah.
Mm.
That's the part. That's the part. A lot of great flute cues in this score.
Yeah. Are you? What are you doing?
Xanthe, do you have that part?
All right, I'm ready. Although I probably gave it away. I mean, I didn't give it away, but you know. Okay.
Oh, I know
wish
where
that
this
I
is.
could play. I wish I could play another instrument at the same time, and I will have to play the other part in a second. But I'll play the violin part first.
And I know what you wish you could play the cello part
Yeah.
at the same time.
Sorry, there's like so many accidentals in it. Okay, so I mean, I'll just let people guess. I'll play the other part. All right. Too many wires. Too many chords.
Yeah. It's a good spot.
It's a lot of keys happening.
Yeah.
A lot of modes happening.
It's really beautiful. Do you know, Justin?
I know the part you're going for, but I can't remember where it is. There's a lot of sweeping strings in this
Yeah.
episode. And we've stumped Jonah too.
Tell us, James.
Yeah.
Or is it
So
James?
this is that part I was talking about
This is
earlier,
the part
though,
that
where
you thought
Saku
the other
is-
part was.
Yeah, Saku is her sister,
Sister.
the bride sister, is making the plea to fight back and not give in to this deal that they've decided to do.
And I think what you were thought of was the like sort of that like, I mean on the violin it's like the string crossings, but it's the like six sleeps. And sort of like the
Yeah.
harmonies that are like, it's not atonal, but it's like polytonal probably is what.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah. It's beautiful. This spot again, haunting and beautiful. There's not a lot of levity in this score at all, actually, and I think that's actually. I just thought about that actually. There's like very little humor in this episode.
That
Or-
is so true, and in the score too.
There's-
Like
And in the score, there's like, and that's what normally makes Star Wars stick out from a lot of other fantasy and science fiction, is that there's like a level of like humor and playfulness and goofiness, and there was like very little of that in this whole score, and maybe that's causing some of the feelings of like, whoa, what's going on here, you know?
I'm trying to think of like, it's not like. I think it's fine. I think it's not necessarily the humor for me. I think it's something about the score is so legato. Like
Mhm.
Yeah.
there's not a lot of short punchy rhythm. You know, there's not
Right.
a lot of like syncopate, like there's not a lot of like rhythmic playing. Whether or not it's like, cuz if I think of like John Williams scoring an action scene, it's not like that's necessarily funny, but if it's like it's more Mickey Mouse, and this score is not.
Swashbuckling,
This
you know,
score is
it's
like
more.
very.
Yeah.
The score is not is like the opposite of Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like almost it's like almost it was developed separately.
It's almost continuous.
Yeah, I mean,
Like the whole thing.
I mean, judging by the names of the tracks on Spotify, maybe it was. Maybe they wrote it for a different. Maybe there's something else happened. Well, let's just talk. Can we just talk about something like at the end of this episode that maybe indicates that maybe I want to know. Maybe I'm out of context here, but what was up with the outro to this show where like everybody is frozen frames, like yeah. What it was like? What did
And
they
then the
not
thing's
finish
flying.
it, or is this like something with the medium that I'm not familiar
It
with?
seemed
'Cause I was just, like,
stylistic to me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it seemed like very stylistic, but it was very odd in some ways.
Jonah said to me the one point where it didn't feel haunting was at the very end, and same. That's where I
Yeah.
felt like it was getting more levity.
Right. But it didn't feel like it like wrapped up just like that. It's like this
Yeah, it
whole
was
big
done.
moment,
Oh,
and then
yeah.
they're like, "Okay, by the way, okay, I'm out of here." Sorry, see, and like no words or waving from anybody. It was just like a freeze frame on her friend, a freeze frame on the village, and then she's like out of there. You know, it's kind of weird.
Yeah. And
It's
it was
very
like
odd.
after that big power ballad,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which, wait, should I play it now or does someone else want to play something?
No, I
did
got
you-
nothing else. No.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's do it.
Oh.
Honestly, I had just prepared that cello line. See if you could guess it by just the line, but that's the only other thing I was ready to play today. So
Sorry.
no, I'm glad you did.
Anyone want to give the speech? Anyone want to pull up the transcript?
Oh my god. I kind of.
Do it.
All right,
Pull
ready?
up the
Yeah,
speech.
One second.
Look it up,
I don't
yeah.
have the transcript, but I have.
You have it in your heart. Oh, where is it?
Okay.
Yeah,
So
ready?
okay, keep going, Xanthe. One second. Okay, one second. Okay. All right. I'm not gonna be able to do this while I watch the episode, but a bunch of over dramatic, crazy things about nature and the force, and Magina, may you rise, and may the force be with you. I am a Jedi. So extra.
And then, wait. Majina, may you rise. And then there's like a. And then, I can't do it. It's too fast. I don't know. Some 16th notes that I have to play.
Rise and rise and rise and rise.
And then on top of that, then it's, it's like, and then it's the song
Yeah.
that I can't remember, but in my head I just went dee 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 dee, but it's not that. Dee 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 dee. What am I singing?
Oh.
I'm singing Enya.
Only time.
Actually, now that I remember, which is hilarious, in the beginning of this stream, we were alluding to Lord of the Rings, and she sings in Lord of the Rings.
There
It
you
all-
go. There
it all
you
comes.
go.
There it
It
is.
all comes
And yeah,
back.
it comes back.
There we go. That's why.
She's got a big elvish number when Scruffy Miss Scruff and Elvish Daughter are sharing a moment.
That's right.
Oh, that would have been so. I'm glad they didn't, Jonah. When I first heard that piece, I thought the Force thing was going to play. But there was. Yeah, that's funny. Let's see. Like a reharmonized version of it would have been funny.
Yes.
It's hilarious. Okay, the power ballad at the end. It was really a lot of bars of that. Like, it was a lot.
Yeah. Big choir.
A, B, C sharp, and then back to the G sharp. So, 1. This whole thing, I feel like revolved around the C, the E,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
E major, C sharp minor.
And then we get the wood scene is in G major / E minor, which is still E
Parallel. Yeah,
E,
yeah.
E parallel or relative,
Yeah. So we didn't talk much about the brass, but there were also, some big brass moments.
Mhm.
There was a lot of what did I write? Violin running 16ths. There's another recap of the song. There was a string brass explosion. There was a yellow lightsaber. Cool.
That was cool. Yeah, I love that lightsaber.
Yeah.
Katana-esque.
Yeah.
I have to say, like, the Jedi in this whole season look awesome, and this, like, they've made the Jedi just totally regain their awesomeness in some ways, like.
And it's a second example of Jedi high heels.
It was like the third.
The third.
How are we feeling about that?
I don't
There's
know.
a lot of stilettos in this.
Maybe
A lot of
it's
stilettos.
maybe it's the second, but there's definitely another one. There's like at least 3.
In the last episode, we had the one of the twin had the laser high heel, and then this one we had super speed high heels and stilettos. At least that's what I assumed. That's what it.
Yeah, right.
Kind of transformed and we're off.
And then the hat turned into like a bomb or something.
I thought that was hilarious when he throws the helmet and it becomes a bomb. Well, also here's our little fun moment of humor. Here's our fun moment of humor in here. I love the battle droids because they just add so much comedy to no matter where it is. He throws the helmet and they're all like, "Oh,
Roger."
Like, what's this?" Which makes me wonder if he puts this helmet on and there's a rocket bomb thing in there.
He just has a bomb in his head at all times.
Doesn't press that button ever. How does head fit in there? But
it's like, imagine going to the helmet store, like the helmet weapon store, and then you're like getting a breakdown on the product. They're like, okay, just so you know, like, this does have a rocket bomb in it, so just make sure.
Just make sure it's turned off.
This
like,
button, right?
Keep
This
the
button,
off switch on it.
This is the blast shield button, and right above that, it's kind of like when I mix up my volume button on my Beats with my play button. It's like, but it's that, but your head explodes.
So make sure that you like go an inch higher than you think it's gonna be.
Yeah. Make sure it's detached. maybe that's the switch there when I throw it on. It's detached from the back. And then did what's the bad guy's ship? Wasn't it from the same series as the Millennium Falcons? I forget what that series of freighter ships was called. It looked very similar. They mentioned it in Solo Star Wars.
Oh yeah.
So what made that? Why was the bad guy bad? Was he like? He's like a human trafficker.
Because he was evil. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the reason why they wanted the bride is they wanted a hostage that if the villagers tried to fight back against them plundering their planet, that they would just execute the bride. That was the whole thing. He was like, I can have collateral in case you guys get angry at us. So they were obviously robbing the planet of their resources. And in order to be able to do that, they were having a hostage as collateral. But for some reason, like, their first pick was the oldest man in the village was their hostage. Like, that seems like to be if you're gonna pick up a hostage that you're going to have in captivity for a long period of time as you continue to plunder this planet, probably you don't pick the person that's probably going to be on their way out the soonest. But anyway, I mean, I'm not.
Well, maybe he was. Maybe he was like the mage.
Okay, yeah,
the
right.
Magina.
Sure.
Yeah.
They may. Oh.
The Magi.
Yeah. There you go, Justin.
Maybe. I think little things like that. I think maybe that was another. Maybe like the plot points were so generic or just so like symbolic and so like
Yeah.
that they almost just passed me by because I don't know it just I don't know if that makes sense. Like it's sort of like, oh yeah, okay, Collateral.
They also didn't
Bride,
show them
blah
plundering the planet
blah.
very much. I mean,
Mm.
I guess they showed that one memory. Is that what that memory was that they were showing, like the whole place being destroyed, right? They were showing like that one scene where like all the rocks are collapsing, right?
Yeah, it wasn't
Is that
visceral.
was that
It
the
wasn't visceral to me. I think that's like what like
Yeah.
beautiful. You know, it was like impressionistic is
Mhm.
sort of like what the vibe of it was. So it's like, oh, pretty, but like I
Right.
wasn't feeling in it. I always felt like I was watching someone do a pretty thing.
Agreed. It's very cerebral
Yeah.
in some ways
Yeah.
in its presentation.
Or at least in my interpretation, because I do know that for some people it really did impact them. Like a lot of people, this is their favorite, and so
Yeah.
just I guess it
That's great.
some things work for some people and not others, and for me it didn't work in that way.
Justin, are we like raining on your parade?
No.
Because I feel like
I feel like
Xanthe.
Not at all.
I feel like
We're just
Xanthe
sharing-
and I are the. No, I'm just being lighthearted. Justin was the one that said that. Justin was the one that was like, "Hey, this." I felt like this is.
No,
this
I
very
think that's
very
I
much
think
worked.
that's awesome. I like it when
Well, it's
And
funny
Xanthe
too,
and I
I
are.
like-
Yeah.
Yeah, but
No, it is
we're not
funny
trying to
too
convince him that. Yeah, we're not
No,
saying we're
no.
right.
No, I know.
We're sharing.
I'm just checking in with him that he's not angry with us.
No, not at all. But it's just funny too because
It'd be very hard to be my friend.
rewatching
so.
this made me like the episode a lot better because the first time I watched it, I was in total agreement with y'all. But it was rewatching it that I was like, no, this works. This works real well for me.
Yeah.
I mean, the mountains falling was definitely the astral projection of this episode where you're like, what's going on here? I thought they destroyed things for a moment. I was like, well, someone Magina is angry. Apparently, they're not meant to
Right.
be. But then the episode continues. Or I thought that was the bad guys coming in and destroying things, but then the mountains fell.
Yeah, I didn't really understand.
So another thing that I'm thinking of with this and why the like really amazing events in it didn't impact me as much as I think I got too used to the grand scale of it that like if something like a mountain collapse that wasn't like unbelievable to me because I feel like the episode right at the gate is very grand and so like if the whole episode is like takes place in this tiny room and the reality of the world is set up such that like that it would be a huge deal if the mountain collapsed, then like I would have felt that. But because like I felt like I was like magic could happen and it was just a magic place, anything can happen. I didn't really feel like, oh my god, the mountain collapsed, or I wasn't sure if I was even supposed to because I was like, oh, how picturesque. I don't know, how pretty, I guess. Sure. Like the mountains. Is this a big deal? Is this a big deal for them? I don't know because everything is like magical and big and beautiful.
And was everybody able to see this moment? Like they do the union bonding and everything goes on, and then F and Velcro. Sorry, now it's stuck in my head. F and Velcro are up there going. This is the past of them. This is the memories of the planet. And it's like, can we all see what's going on here? Yeah, what's going on here? Is some poor person, poor hiker walking by and going, what's happening to the mountains right now?
Yeah, they kind of buried the lead there with that mountain collapsing scene,
Oh, it's another union happening. Damn those kids, I don't know.
Can't get her feet dirty.
And then they trapped fish. That's okay.
Okay, so that was the Village Bride.
Yeah. It was a good one. They're all good.
Yeah, I'm having fun.
Definitely an interesting one.
For sure.
Definitely getting this soundtrack on my player here listen
Does
to this
anyone
one
else
over and
feel
over
like?
again.
Yeah, I think so. Does anyone else feel like they totally could have released these weekly and like people would have been totally
Oh yeah.
satisfied? I feel like they would have, and they would have
Oh
like
yeah.
increased their buzz. I mean, there are a lot of like other. I mean, when's the next Marvel show start? Justin, do you know?
I mean, we just finished What If. I don't.
Right,
I think what we're getting Hawkeye in December
right.
here.
December. Okay, so yeah, there's not really
Yeah.
like a conflict of any major other Disney show. I'm wondering why they didn't have the confidence to just be like, let's release these once a week.
You know, it
Because
would
I
have been
feel like they. Yeah.
Jonah says someone just walks by and thinks they're both high. Yeah, that's funny because
They're like, whoa,
on Twitter there's like a
the
thread going around that's like
mountain.
what
And like
Star Wars
one of
character
them's like what the bride looks over. Are you hearing Enya right now?
are you singing that? Majina. Majina, may you rise. Okay. I think that I am also very curious why they dropped this all at once.
Yeah.
And I think the word confidence is probably an apt word for this.
Yeah.
And I'm torn about it because I do think that like I think it's just an unfortunate middle ground. Like I think what would have been ideal is if this were a theatrical release as one movie.
That'd be cool.
Like collections of shorts used to be. I mean, I don't know if they used to be. I've never gone to the theater and seen a collection of shorts, but I know that like collections of shorts are sometimes marketed as one film, right? Like
Sure.
Paris,
Yeah.
Paris, I Love You, New York.
Yeah, Je t'aime. That's right. I love that.
And
movie,
so
by the
shorts
way.
collections are a thing, and
right.
this could have been a shorts collection, and in the theaters, I'm able to pay attention more, and when it's like an event like that. But like, and I think there's something to. I think it's really awesome when collections of shorts are presented together because then you can see how they're all playing off of each other, and I can see the downside to doing them all separately because then maybe we would be reading too much into something that is meant to be in conversation with other shorts, as one big project. But then because of the like way that we consume media now,
Right.
it doesn't really work now to also just drop them all at once and then expect people to like pace, I don't know, to either pay attention to them all at once or to,
Right.
have any reason to talk about them because there's this, if it's a day late, like if you're a day late, like it's already out of the news cycle and whatever.
Right, and there would have been no spoilers in the sense of don't watch this episode because it reveals what happened last episode. And James, you binged the whole thing and said I was so confused by the end of this,
Yeah,
almost
or I was
overwhelmed.
like, I was numb. I think that's the best way to put it. I
Yeah.
was like numb by the end. I
And I
really
wa- and
wish that I could have had more space.
Yeah, and I wanted to binge it because they're all there. Let's do this. But I felt myself forcing myself to do like 2 episodes at a time because
Right.
there's just so much to digest in each episode, and since none of them were going to be related, it wasn't going to be like, okay, this is the continuation of the next episode or the last episode kind of thing. I really wish it would have been once a week. I felt like
because then like when you're behind, like I also didn't binge them, but I did feel like pressured to, kind of get on, like finish them, like because I knew that every day I wasn't finishing them. I was just like either gonna get spoilers or, I couldn't just have YouTube open, and then it might go to like a creator that I follow that they've already talked about this, like you never know. So there's just a pressure to consume these things so quickly,
Sure.
or be left behind. And Bill says, my guess is that wanted to avoid the possibility of negative reactions in between each week. Yeah,
Yeah, and that's what I say.
What if everyone hated the twins?
And that's what I'm saying. I'm surprised that they did. I guess I'm in some ways I'm sad that they didn't have the confidence in their material because I think it's all of the episodes I think are worthy of a week's worth of conversation and pondering, regardless of their length. I know that they're all short. I mean, they're all like 10 to 15 minutes or whatever. But I mean, I think they all have enough meat to chew on and are worthy additions to Star Wars media that I would have loved to just chew on those each week. But that's just me as a fan.
No,
You
I
know,
agree.
I mean,
and
like,
I would have loved to
yeah.
still be in conversation with like other people, other creators still also talking about these. Like
Yeah.
I will say we're not the only ones. Like there's still Kyle Katarn is releasing their reactions weekly still. So it wasn't all at once. And I think Darth Chaco is also, still rolling them out slowly. But
yeah.
definitely like for a lot of people it one big thing. And yeah, it makes sense. I guess there's just I don't know. It's tough
Yeah.
because I think there are pros and cons to both ways. I just selfishly don't like being feeling pressured to consume things so quickly. And
Right.
yeah,
That's
I
the
guess we all
tricky
feel
thing
that
with
way.
streaming these days is that, and it's so easy to put full scenes and full reactions to things online when it's on your personal device as opposed to in the theaters, at least when things were being released in the theaters, that there's you had a reasonable amount of like, you could be like, oh, I haven't gotten out to a theater yet, but now that it's everyone's in, you can see full clips on Twitter of people that put a full scene on there, and you can get spoiled really, really easily
It's like
nowadays.
so wild. It's
A
so
minefield,
wild. It's so wild. And it's also like I don't like it. I don't like it at all. But
yeah,
I also feel like it just opens there's just so much more room for I don't want to say inequality because it's in some way put it this way. A lot of people asked me if I had seen what was that thing that dropped the music and sounds
Oh,
oh,
on Disney Plus?
Galaxy of Sound.
Galaxy of
Galaxy of
Sounds.
Sound,
Yeah.
which
Mhm.
I don't think the three of us have even seen yet.
No,
Yeah,
I
I
haven't
haven't
watched
seen it.
it.
And
Yeah,
honestly, I'm not going to see it for a while. Straight up. I don't want to see it for a while. Why? Because I don't have like I don't have like I don't actually have a good even close to a theater level of viewing, I don't want to watch
wow, that's a
something where
really
it's
good
like
point,
I
right?
don't want to watch something where I know from Twitter that they really tweaked the 5.1 surround sound on it to really make these things really like like it's like a sound design like showcase really. And like all these people are replying like, oh, I can't wait to like test my Dolby out on this. I can't wait to test my surround sound on
Right.
this. But I literally have a TV that has just the speaker that's built into it.
Yeah.
I don't want to like it feel like it would make me angry to watch it on this like cheap ass TV. And
Yeah,
of
that's a
course I
really
want to
good point.
experience that, but like also when I watch things, I live in an apartment. There's like I'm watching things on this TV. On the left of the TV is like my desk. On the right of the TV is like the kitchen. Like I don't want to. I can't be immersed like that, and so I can't keep up with that pace and pay attention and be like
Mhm, mhm.
really isolated and invest and like put together critical thoughts about it.
Right.
Like it's just it's like too fast, and a lot of people are watching things on in even less ideal conditions.
Oh yeah. Some people only have a phone. Some people don't have a phone. Some people,
Yeah.
only have their friends' devices. Or have public library or public access.
It's making me think about
Um,
like I'm moving soon, and like it makes me think like if everything is like so streamy, like maybe I should. I used to not give it. I used to like really not care about spending money on getting nice stuff for my TV and whatever because I don't want to spend a lot of time watching TV anyway. And it's making me really think of like maybe I should set up a little bit of maybe I should get speakers. Like that's another investment, And I was like, I'll watch this Galaxy of Sound thing if I have a friend who has surround sound and like a nice like something, but I want to see what they worked on. Like I want to see
right.
that
Mhm.
version. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so true. And it used to
Yeah.
be, things that release in theaters ahead of time. At least everybody for at least a month or two. There's only one way to go see it, and everybody basically paid around the same amount of money to go see the full experience. Depending on the theater you go to, obviously.
Right.
But at the same time, there is a level of like it was like It's the same level of access for everybody. But nowadays, if you have more money and a better home setup, you get a much better experience right out the gate. And other people don't even have the option of going to a theater and getting a better experience. They're like you said, you kind of stuck with whatever you have. That's a really interesting point. And we're heading in this direction where like more things are going to be streaming, less things are going to be released into those settings. So that is a good point. There's going to be people that don't have the type of equipment, and the art that they consume is going to be at a lower presented quality than those.
And also the art being
that's
made
nothing
is
new,
also,
by the way,
and also a lot of the art being made is going to be made for, and it already is, like optimized for the phone or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's just weird. Yeah. It's just this weird territory,
It totally is. And
were
that's
so
nothing
lucky to
new.
get-
It's nothing new for digital media to be optimized for those things. But at least when we had theaters, everybody had a chance to go see it in a nice setting for at least a month or two.
Yeah. Oh, all those speakers. I miss it.
Right.
The rumble of the chairs.
Well, you know what? I think like I call it a niche theater, but I'm pretty sure they got bought out by a major conglomerate. But I think they're still doing cool things. But like places like Alamo Drafthouse and other artsy types of film theaters, or probably, I wouldn't be surprised if some nerdy Star Wars theater showed this season, on the big screen somewhere, and you could go and watch this whole season somewhere.
It's another rights though.
At least in LA.
Oh, you're saying like a theater owned by Disney Plus? That would be the only way.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I did. I mean, that's definitely
it's
a thing.
Whole other.
Well, I'll tell you what. I bet CalArt students will screen it at the theater at CalArts, and probably a number of other universities might screen it. Just don't tell anybody. Disney. If there's one company that
James
will come for you,
stream it at a house party. That's what he
house
does.
Party, run by CalArtians at the Bijou. Anyways,
Yes, yeah, but I wouldn't be. I mean, if there's one company that'll come for like teachers showing their movies in their classrooms, people showing them at their birthday parties, it's Disney.
Yeah,
Disney has actually done things like that. So, yeah, you're right. I probably shouldn't have said that.
So,
Village Bride.
Village Bride.
Village Bride.
Good times. Yeah, this was
What's
a
the
really
next
interesting.
episode?
This was a really interesting conversation. Next episode is Ninth Jedi, I believe.
Oh yeah, let's go. Sorry, I don't want to give away my opinions too early.
Yeah.
But
Okay, yeah, don't give them. So yeah, if y'all are interested in the music and sound of the Ninth Jedi and want to hear what we have to say about it and what perks our ears enough to play examples from, tune in next week. Next week we're back on Sunday, right?
yes.
Next week we're Sunday at 4 p.m. Pacific time.
That's Beethoven's Ninth Jedi. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Thanks, James. All right, so we have to do our outro music.